Percy, you want to show everyone how handsome you are in your sweater? Hey y'all, welcome back to Homesteadin the City. I'm Zach, and today we're going to do a full garden tour. Alright, so starting off right here at the patio, we did get some new earth boxes this year and some terracotta pots that we found on the side of the road. And this year, kind of the theme that you're going to be seeing around the garden is we focus less on actually growing food and stuff and more on getting all of the gardens and the structure prepped for long-term success. So right here we've got some garlic and herbs that I put in for the winter, also in the earth boxes. I've got a lot of avocados growing. I found out that the earth boxes have been really great for germinating avocados, way better than the toothpicks and jar of water in the windowsill. And then also got some fig cuttings in one of the earth boxes. I've actually I really like the earth boxes overall for rooting a lot of different things because it keeps that consistent moisture a lot better, I think, than the garden touch. What are those called? Green stalks, because they're sub-irrigated rather than drip irrigated from the top. But we have had plenty of success in the green stalk, which we'll see in a minute. All right, so next up, in the middle of the yard, we've got our kind of food forest garden rows area. And where we left that off, we were just starting to kind of mark out where the rows are going to be and start building up the soil there. And that's pretty much what we've been doing all summer and into the fall, is just piling up organic matter. We've planted a ton of cover crops. We had some of that mixed from Jason Rowland, from Organically Rowland. Also just a lot of grocery store beans. We threw those in there. And so that's all pretty much just chop and drop. We're starting to try to get some more perennials to establish. I've got a few elderberries in here. We've got some blueberry cuttings that I'm going to be working on rooting that we'll put throughout here. And then we'll just keep adding things in here. We'll grow some annuals in these garden beds for the first few years. And then over time, it'll transition more to a perennial system. You having fun digging? So something else I'll note about the structure of the food forest area, our backyard is on a slope. Mostly tried to make a little bit of a terrace with the beds. And then one of the things that we did to help with slowing down the water as it moves down the landscape, as you just saw, Percy loves to dig, but he's pretty good at not digging where he's not supposed to. So we trained him not to dig in the garden bed areas, but allowed him to dig in certain areas where we wanted to have, we wanted to be a little bit deeper, kind of create a swale or stormwater pond type catchment. And so we just let him dig and dig and dig. And then eventually we had almost like a little pond kind of midway through the yard. And then we filled that with wood chips. And then all of the rows in between the beds, we also let him dig down in there, but then filled those with wood chips. So what kind of looks a bit like a smooth slope is really more of a kind of undulating landscape that's more terraced and designed really to slow down that water and capture it. Hey Percy, let's head on to the greenhouse area. When I say the greenhouse area, it's definitely a work in progress. We had some bricks laying around the side of the house. I kind of just laid them in a rectangle. We made a fire in the middle of it to burn down all the weeds that were in that area, and then just left the charcoal there to kind of be a biochar layer, and then covered that up with mulch. We don't have a greenhouse right now, but we're planning on getting one, and this is just the spot in the yard that happens to have the most sunlight, and it kind of works out with the structure of where we put things. It's right by the frog fountain in the back. You can probably hear that in the background. And so we kind of wanted that, just the layout of our yard aesthetically, we wanted it there. And so it's kind of working in the spot, and hopefully in the future we'll get a greenhouse and kind of put it over this area. Right now, it's really just kind of used for some storage for some garden pots, and we've got our green stalk out here. And like I said, we've had a decent amount of success with the green stalk. We grew tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers in it over the summer, and basil. That all did pretty well. I probably would not do, definitely wouldn't do the tomatoes. We had indeterminate tomatoes, and I didn't have any sort of structure for them. But I'm kind of using it now, mostly for some winter greens, and then also just propagating out. I've got some fig cuttings in here, some elderberry cuttings. We've got mint and strawberry that I'm also trying to just spread out, and so we'll see how these all go. All right, next up we've got the frog pond fountain, and if you follow us on Instagram, we definitely have a lot more content from here. This has probably been the best success this year. Just having a constant source of water has been great for some of the plants. We put some around the edge, and they get just a little light misting as the water hits the fountain. We're putting some pots just directly in the water, seeing what grows well in that, putting more aquatic plants in there. We've rooted cuttings in here. We have attracted frogs that have helped keep down the mosquito population. Overall, we've been very happy with it. One of the plants that did really well in the fountain was this basil. It's probably the biggest basil I've ever grown, and we're definitely gonna be saving some seeds from it. It got, I don't know, probably a good 3 or 4 feet tall. It is raised up a bit, but it's like at eye level, a little above my head. So yeah, it was a pretty good year for this basil. The bees are loving it. And so right here we have more of our wild food forest area. If the garden rows are going to be more of an orchard, this is definitely more of the food forest. And it's also, if you remember, where we're planning to have our chicken run in the future. So right now we've just kind of trimmed back the trees. We're going to be planting a lot more edible shrubs and ground layers throughout here, but we've got some paths mulched through the area. And then one day we'll get the chickens running through here and be making some really cool compost. So this is our side rain garden area. If you remember this, we just kind of stripped it all bare, made a few little swales, and then pretty much just let the weeds grow up. We had some lantana already in here. And some dewberries, and really finalized our plan. We do have a muscadine that's growing up along the side. We're going to try to train that to grow along the fence, but probably going to put some fruit trees and stuff in here, maybe some mulberry and fig, stuff that we can really train and espalier kind of along the wall, and then maybe grow some vines and stuff up that for just a little bit of privacy and just fitting something in a narrow space. Percy, do you like the flowers? Or are you just looking for a lizard? All right, and coming up front, this could almost be a video all on its own. So if you saw a couple months ago, we'd gotten a letter from the city, which if we back up a few months before that, we had, truckloads of mulch delivered. And then one of those included a ton of trees, and we weren't quite sure what we were going to do with it. Eventually the city sent us a letter. We got a complaint or something, basically told us we had to clean it up. So we got to work, and originally we were going to try to move the trees, but it became clear that a couple of them were not going anywhere. So we moved what we could, made a mulch delivery area. We used some of the logs that we could move, made some retaining walls as well, and then just kept getting mulch delivered in this mulch delivery area, filling up the yard, and filling up where we had put those retaining walls, and just raising the level of the what will eventually be soil. Right now it's just wood chips. And then so we just divided the yard into a few spaces. We've got this area kind of out front, and so right now we just have some wood chips down there, but we're going to be planting flowers all along the front. And then we also made this ramp up that's kind of the second layer coming into the front yard, and it's eventually going to be more of that outdoor education area, where this is probably the deepest part of where the soil is, and it's just making this massive sponge in the front yard. Now, helping along with that and actually funneling the water into that sponge in the first place is our water catchment garden beds. And these are first and foremost a water catchment device. They're dug down on the side of the driveway so that the water can drain down into them, and then the driveway is at the top of the slope of the front yard, so all that water comes into these beds and then filters into that big spongy area where all the mulch is. Now, as we kind of move from that middle education area into the garden bed area, we're passing through that tree line where they dumped all those trees, and we just built up that mulch up, and eventually we're going to put in a lot more bushes and trees in certain areas of this little log line and kind of make it a more separated area, but right now it's just kind of open back to the garden bed area. And then these are just 4 beds that some raised beds that we built out of pallets that we got, just some small pallets. Kara cut them in half with a Sawzall, took a couple screws, put them together, and then we filled them with a mix of just kind of compost, some wood chips, and then some soil that was around the yard. It's not high quality stuff right now. We're not growing anything in it over the winter. I might put in some cover crop stuff, but really just kind of letting it rest in. We've got some mushrooms growing up that are, hopefully breaking down everything. But next year in the spring, we'll really try to get some stuff going. And then finally, the area closest to the house between the garden beds and the porch, we've got a flower area. Kara is planting subbulbs in here. We've got a few pollinators already going. It's mostly weeds right now, but we're gonna keep planting stuff out and just grow that into an area that's gonna be, attractive to those beneficial pollinators and really help the garden production up in the other areas. Oh, and also didn't want to forget the little strip by the driveway on the other side. Nothing much going on in it right now, but eventually we'll put more. Probably berries is still what I'm thinking. I put a few elderberry cuttings in there to see how that goes. Maybe some blueberries, probably a mulberry, but yeah, nothing much going on in here right now. So that's it for this garden tour. Like I said, this year was mainly focused on building the structures of the garden and setting us up for future success. And if you've seen some of our past content, a lot of this has been filtered through the lens of building soil, managing water, and fostering community. And so we looked at some of the building soil and talked about the water management, but then that fostering community, that's really big for us. So we're looking forward to future seasons, being able to have a lot more produce, being able to share with the neighbors, but then also being able to share the knowledge that we're learning and help pass that along to our neighbors and to our viewers, so that you can help implement some of this stuff in your communities. And so we're looking forward to what the future brings, but until then, see y'all next time.